Welcome to the Heimatmuseum in Davos. How does circular manufacturing help improve economic performance and supply chain resilience? Well, this year's Davos motto is cooperation in a fragmented world. We're all here this week in Davos because we are at some level concerned about sustainability and our planet, sized by how we can contribute to it, or even benefit from sustainability movements, which is impacting our business. One of the key aspects of this movement is which gaining traction across the world today is circular economy. Today, I would like to trigger a discussion on how manufacturing companies can leverage principles of circular economy to reach their sustainable practice. Welcome to the panel, Christoph Schell from Intel and Andreas Tschiesner from McKinsey. Before we start with the panel, I would like to introduce myself and then also the two panelists. Let me start with myself. My name is Christian Boos. I'm part of the SAP Gross Business Unit Sustainability. And within that, I'm looking into sustainability innovation, where circular manufacturing is one of the key aspects that we currently look in. Next to me, I'm very glad to have Christoph Schell with me. Christoph is the Chief Commercial Officer at Intel Corporation. In his role, Christoph oversees Intel's global sales and business management, marketing, communications, corporate planning, customer support, and customer success teams, leading the company's efforts to foster innovative go-to-market approaches that broaden Intel's business opportunity and deepen customer and partner relationships and outcomes worldwide. Welcome, Christoph.
Thanks for having me. That sounded very complex.
We're getting deeper into that, yeah?
A lot of responsibility.
Wow. Next to Christoph, I'm very happy to have Andreas representing McKinsey as a senior partner at McKinsey office in Munich and global leader for the McKinsey's advanced industry practice. He is more than 25 years of consulting experience, predominantly in the automotive, electronics, and high-tech industries. Andreas works with clients across different industries on the topics of sustainability and circularity. He has been a part of the Circular Car Initiative in cooperation with the World Economic Forum. Welcome, Andreas.
Thanks for inviting me for such an interesting discussion.
All right, due to have a packed agenda and a packed stream of interesting topics, I would like to start right away. SAP has a long-standing relations with our customers as a technology vendor to transform their businesses, and sustainability is especially a key topic where we look to work together. One of such customers is, of course, Intel. Intel is a customer, Intel is a partner of ours. Intel is even a supplier of ours, so multiple roles. So I'm really happy to go deeper in that with Christoph. First question goes directly to you, Christoph. Intel is a leader in the semiconductor industry, as we all know, focusing on operations, product design, and product longevity are vital to the company's strategy. Christoph, I read articles that quote Intel executives saying that keeping waste out of landfills is a critical priority for a better environment and Intel's operational footprint. The world is sized with leveraging the principles of the circular economy, especially as the cost of rare materials and semiconductors is skyrocketing. Could you elaborate a little bit more on Intel's views on sustainability and its goals and progresses?
Okay, so there's obviously a lot in there. For me, when I prepared for today, I really needed to make the difference between circular manufacturing and sustainability. And for me, this is like a colliding topic, and we'll touch on this later. But look, at the core, Intel has a mission to improve people's lives through technology. Okay, and if we do that, we cannot forget about circular manufacturing or sustainability, because that would basically put our entire vision and mission at Intel ad absurdum. Okay, it's completely nonsense. So what we're doing, and I think this is at the heart of it, what you have to understand is we are designing our products and we're also manufacturing them. And as you just articulated with SAP, we operate in an ecosystem. And so how we influence our design ecosystem, how we influence our manufacturing ecosystem, and how we then influence customers, you and I do that together, SAP and Intel, help them with outcomes that they need in order to drive circular manufacturing is super important. And now I will touch on a bunch of examples as I go forward. Our biggest challenge at Intel and probably in the industry is actually e-waste. E-waste is the fastest growing chapter, if you want, within waste, okay? And there's a lot that needs to be top of mind when we design parts in order to reduce e-waste. I mean, a very simple equation is the smaller a part is, the less waste you have. For us on wafers, and the importance of utilizing as much as we can of the wafer is super important. Any down bins, any waste that we create have a risk of ending up in landfills, okay? And that's really why, from a design point of view, from a technology point of view, don't just think about how to recycle, how to reuse, but actually think about at the front end when you design a product, when you design a semiconductor, how can you limit waste? Okay, it's a very, very big topic. We made a commitment that by 2030, we want to have 0 landfill. And that is front and center. I got this week a bunch of questions about, how far are you on this journey? If you look at it, we have also made a commitment that 60% of our manufacturing is really supposed to impact the downstreams of our customers and our suppliers. That's very important. So upstream and downstream, okay? And that's where we are today. If you look at the progress, and I give you a couple of stats, because I think we have those in our yearly reports. The one I'm quoting right now is from 2021, because we haven't posted our 22 report, but we're down to 5% of waste in landfills. We really want to bring this down to 0, as I just said, by 2030. So we have our work cut out for us. As you both know, it's easy to make progress in the beginning, okay? But then as you go, the last miles is
and more costly.
Very costly. It takes a lot of focus, takes a lot of redesign efforts as well, a lot of work with suppliers. But we're committed to doing it, but we have 5% left to go, okay? So that's how I look at this. And then, I think it's very important that we really get the message also across. And, I'm in sales. I mean, one of the things that you read out of my job description, my team and I, we're responsible for go-to-market. And if you look into the amount of RFQs that have been published in the last 5 years with circular manufacturing and sustainability goals included, you will see that the number has been going through the roof. What does it mean? It means that in order for us to win business with our customers, we need to help them to get to their circular manufacturing and sustainability goals. And this, again, brings this idea back of ecosystem. How do we design products together? How do we manufacture them together? It's a team effort.
Awesome, really inspiring. I really like that stretch goal, 2030, 0 landfill.
Yes,
that's
5% to go.
Great goal.
It'll be back in 2030.
And also the embedding of sustainability right in the design process. That's really encouraging, motivating for many others, I guess. Yeah. All right, thanks, Christoph. Next question goes over to you, and Andreas, looking a bit more from a regulatory side. So I'm quite sure McKinsey and yourself, you're keeping a track on the various regulations ongoing from governments across the world. Let's take the EU taxonomy as a sample and how it's focused on the circular economy. Many of these regulations are focusing around carbon, but I'm also quite sure there's also a lot of stuff going on in material stewardship and on circular economy. Could you elaborate a bit more how McKinsey is looking and seeing the current trends in that to kind of learn from that and kind of inspire others?
Sure, Christian, with pleasure. And you're totally right. I think the regulatory framework is an important aspect. While the concept of a circular economy has been around for plus 10 years, we see a lot of momentum and increasing advancement of the topic in the last couple of years. And basically in our analysis, we see 5 main forces. First, and in many areas, definitely foremost, is policy and regulatory framework. That's in many regions, the initial impulse comes from the regulatory framework, particularly also in Europe. I mean, you were mentioning the EU taxonomy, and let's provide a couple of stats as well. After all, we are McKinsey. On the taxonomy is aiming at reducing the material footprint by 2030 by 50%. So it's not going down to 0 yet, but by 50%, which is already a big step forward, resulting that we will then also need 25% of circular materials in the industrial base, from today about 13%. So also there a big increase needed to comply with that. But it's, I think, only one force. The second one that we're seeing, that market mechanism, CO2 is actually driving the use of circular economy and circular materials. So that's, I think, a little bit the connecting rod between the sustainability discussions and the circular material discussion, because circular manufacturing materials are an important aspect to get to an overall sustainable future. And with prices of CO2 of 80 to 100 euro per ton, which we see in the next years that the market mechanism will go to, obviously many circular materials will become cost effective and cost competitive. And therefore we see then a shift. Even if you don't care about sustainability, it's a pure economic decision. The third one, I think, and that's also one of the big themes here in Davos, is clearly the resilience across the value chain. Many companies such as Intel have given great commitments on what they want to achieve. Then obviously, if we look at scope 3 emissions, that actually also means that the industry need to work together across the entire value chain to get to that. And we see that also as an important driver. If a car manufacturer is saying, well, we shift to EVs, then from a total consumption of CO2, the material in the production is 90% of the CO2 emissions. So they need now to work together with all the technological partners to take that out. And circular materials are an important aspect. We also see that in our industrial work, that many RFPs have concrete conditions for the percentage of circular materials like aluminium. We want 25% of recycled steel. We want 30% of recycled aluminium. That is also driving that. The fourth aspect that we see is, and that's also, I think, very present in Davos, is the topic of energy and energy management. We all are facing energy crisis in many parts of the world, and particularly here also in Europe. And one may not forget, when we do the calculation, recycled steel has the opportunity of reducing the energy consumption up to 90-95%, and aluminium is 80%. So it's just a very wise decision. If I'm short on energy and we are all asked to reduce energy as much as possible, so recycled materials is a great way. And the final point is clearly the technological advancement. There is so much innovation in sorting technologies, in tracking technologies. I think the two companies here are also very important in tracking and tracing and making sure we have a much better transparency also on those materials. So that's what we see as the core forces there.
Well, I really like your last point, or one of the last points, circular manufacturing, circular economy, reducing the production of original steel, yeah, and by that heavily reducing the carbon footprint. Great sample, yeah. Thanks, Andreas. Christoph, next question again to you. You deal with real factories, yeah? So I also want to ask questions on real challenges. But even before making the manufacturing process circular, it's important to design your products, as I mentioned before. Could you go a bit deeper on how Intel looks into the product design on circularity? What you basically embed in your R&D practices to really make sustainability somehow a DNA of design? That would be quite encouraging.
There's probably 100,000 employees at Intel who can give you a better answer than I can, but I'll give you a very simple one. The simple equation in our business is the higher the quality of the silicon, the less waste we will have. And the more productivity you will have as well. How you transform a wafer to a chip. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. So this has to do with design, but it also has to do with really core engineering work. How good are your engineers to actually put a concept into a product? And an example that I want to give you is a product that we actually launched recently. It's Intel's fourth generation of a Xeon processor, a Xeon CPU. They go into data centers. Data centers is what SAP requires to drive SAP for HANA, your core business. You couldn't do it without data centers. You couldn't do it without silicon. So the quality that we're getting out of the wafer is obviously having a huge impact on circular, but it's also having a huge impact on sustainability. So for example, when you compare generation over generation, we're getting a performance per watt improvement of 2.9 times, which is massive. Wow. Okay, so why is that important? Well, we all are in this industry, so we know that one of the biggest issues for data centers is to actually get energy, power to the data center. The limitations of cities, states, countries not supporting data centers anymore because they want to save energy or they don't have the electrical grid to bring that to life. So that's very important. But I'm also representing not just the manufacturing part of Intel. I'm representing also the entire system that we sell. So for me, it's, for example, very important within circular and within sustainability. We also look at software solutions on how can we manage workload in a data center. We have products that help you to optimize the workload without having to replace silicon. So what does that mean? It means that the CPU, the server that you have, can stay alive longer because we can optimize workload management on a little bit of an older silicon, okay, a little bit of an older server, and you don't have to replace it. When you don't replace, the risk of things going into landfill are obviously reduced. So you need to look at technology always as a system. It's a system of hardware, silicon, software, and services. And how we work between those three, in particular with SAP, is what really sets us apart. So I think that's a good example. We have other examples. We have, for example, a PC line of business in at Intel. It's called NUC. The materials that we choose, very important. How many recycled materials can we use for that product? We work with, and I will make examples later on, but how we work with OEMs then as well on bringing that to life. So we have a huge impact on that. And yeah, I think material management, material science is actually a core part of circular manufacturing. I had the pleasure of managing a 3D printing business in my past. And so the impact that materials have are also quite important.
We love to sample, not only focusing on hardware, but combining that with software and service. Great sample. Yeah? What is it that drives that innovation path? Is it customers like SAP and then your customers coming to you and asking for kind of solutions in the hardware, software?
That's very nicely said. Yeah. I will say differently. If I don't perform, I don't sell. Okay, so I have customers who expect outcomes, and in order to reach those outcomes, sometimes we need a silicon solution, sometimes a software solution, sometimes both. Then we need to integrate it. I have customers who don't want to buy product anymore. They want to pay for a service, and they will pay once we hit a milestone. That milestone is becoming more and more often a performance over what milestone. So how can you save energy? So our industry is changing.
Well, and a great sample for collaboration in a fragmented world.
Absolutely.
Work with those customers.
Yes.
Thank you, Christoph, for going a bit deeper on that. Andreas, next one again to you. Either as a part of Circular Cars Initiative or the other circular initiatives, can you share a bit more on your experiences, maybe on the automotive industry and going beyond that, what you look in from a McKinsey perspective?
I think there's a very important initiative in the auto industry, which is called Catena X, which you're also working on. And I think it's an important initiative because on the first step in taking waste out of the value chain, thereby increasing circularity and increasing sustainability, is clearly transparency and a much better view on what is happening. I think Catena X is an important factor. And on top of that, it also helps in the resilience. And as one participant here in Davos has said, he would actually love that to be a global open standard so that we could work according to that standard across the world. Now, I think it will take a little bit, a few more steps to get there.
Catena X for the globe.
X for the globe. He was in particular also talking about the Chinese supply chain, so we will see how quickly that will develop. But I think it's a great idea and a fantastic vision. But I think also many other industries are doing similar things. So I think the Circular Electronics Partnership is also something that goes along that way, which is more than 30 companies, also supported by the World Economic Forum, which I think has exactly the same ambitions of making substantial increase in those steps and really making substantial change. Christoph, you mentioned before the waste. I would like to mention the KEEP initiative, which I think is a very nice acronym for keeping electronics and electrical products. I think we are having currently 50 million tons of waste, if our statistics are correct, every year. 80% of that is not going for recycling, and the majority of that is not even tracked. So that's clearly some things, and there's some first great successes there. And the final thing, also the semicon industry, through the industry association, is with all the 2,500 members, actually also working from the manufacturing, the equipment manufacturing, on the processes. Emil some great examples. So I think also in semicon, there's a lot of things. And I think water consumption, for example, is a big thing. Like, I think one big player is using 190 billions of liters of water, which is like the equivalent of 3 days the Colorado River, the volume, which just shows the magnitude of the challenge we have ahead of us, but also the opportunities could be brought. So I think the ecosystem approach across the value chains is, I think, a very, very important one. And we see that, fortunately, in many industries.
I really like the sample of the global Catena X, yeah? And again, it's a...
With important technology partners, then obviously.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's good to hear and see that in the semiconductor world, we are kind of looking in a similar direction, yeah?
But sure. It's good, because if we wouldn't, then that whole ecosystem wouldn't work hand in hand, and then I think it's impossible to progress.
Great to hear. Okay, we're almost getting closer to the end of our scheduled time for today's session. If there's one thing you would like this audience to take away from the session, or maybe from the wider WEF session, what would it be? Maybe first to you, Christoph.
Look, I mean, I learned a long time ago a little saying from a previous boss of mine. It is plan your work, work your plan, and your plan will work. So what that really means is, don't just leave this up to coincidence, okay? I mean, set a goal and then define a path on how you get to that goal. And when you set that goal, make sure you don't just set it for yourselves, set it for your ecosystem. Downstream, upstream. Very important. And make sure that you pull that ecosystem with you. Give them incentives, okay? But also give them sticks if they don't perform. Collaborate. I think that's very important. I have, many examples where Intel has been collaborating, for example, with Dell on Concept Luna, redefining the size of a motherboard because we identified that to be the biggest issue in the laptop business on greenhouse gas emissions. How we work with other OEMs on flexible modular rack designs for servers. So if you want to upgrade the CPU, upgrade the memory, you don't have to throw the whole server away. You just pull the CPU out, put another CPU in. You don't have to change the rack. You don't have to change any hardware. So these are all ideas, that you can do in an ecosystem environment. So as you define your plan, really make sure that you understand how your ecosystem works and then pull them with you. And then lastly, don't give up, okay? Don't give up and push through. There will be setbacks. As I said, the last 5% for Intel on zero landfill by 2030 is going to be very hard to get there, but we will get there. It's a marathon, and we will run the marathon. So I would leave you with that.
You can join the marathon. Thanks, Christoph.
Perfect. I would also have three things. The first one is it's customer-centric and customer-back. Being it B2B, where you're part of the value chain together with the partners in that value chain, what is really needed to shift the whole industry forward? It's the first point. And on B2C, how do you build a strong brand? How you make also circular products that have a high share of circularity ingrained? How do you make that attractive? Because consumers need to love the products, and they need to also see that as an innovative, technological-driven product. I think that's an very important aspect. The second one is, I would say, aim high, large-scale ambitions. We often discuss with the clients in the different industries, do you want to play defense of just fulfilling regulatory commitments, or do you want to play offense? And obviously, our advice would obviously play offense. And we see great opportunities of companies using completely new business models to shift more to circularity and more to sustainability. And one quick example here that we are in Switzerland, the sports show or the shoe company On. And they have actually developed a subscription model, a zero-waste subscription model for one of their running shoes, where you pay a monthly fee, a zero-waste subscription fee. The company stays completely in control of the asset of the shoe. So use the shoe as long as you want. And when you bring it back, it is actually made of a monomaterial made out of castor beams. You put that in an automated grinding process, and the material comes out and can be reused, recycled in circular topics for a new shoe. And I think models like that, I think, will bring us forward. And we see a lot of innovative force in that. And the third thing is, I think it's an ecosystem play. We have been using that as consultants very often, but I think here we really see lots of companies working together. I mean, SAP and Intel is a great example, how you are sharing thoughts, how you can move forward. We see that in so many different industries. This is such a task. One company alone cannot achieve it. So I think whenever the challenges are high, the risks are high, then we should huddle up and work together and move forward as an ecosystem in the industries. That would be my 3 lessons learned.
Yeah, awesome, Andreas. Yeah, and maybe the on running shoe sample combined with your marathon sample, is a good thing. Yeah, so Well, from my perspective, key learning out of this conversation is really embedding sustainability already in the heart of the design. And that's really and the collaboration. Yeah? So really working with your customers, working with your vendors in the design to already reduce the size of products or the number of materials. That's really encouraging. And from my perspective, I'm looking also to the audience. If that stuff that we talked about is and was inspiring, feel encouraged, feel invited to even go the next step beyond. Maybe we can start a co-innovation together with Intel and even drive what we already do together in terms of combining hardware, software, and services, driven then with thought leadership and combination and the power of McKinsey. I'm quite sure that will be a powerful recipe. Appreciate, and once again, thanks Christoph, thanks Andreas for being with us at the Heimatmuseum in Davos, and looking forward to probably talk over the course of the upcoming year and maybe next year in Davos of a joint project. Thank you.
Looking forward to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.